took time. We wanted Joe to step aside so there'd be an open primary process. But believe me, it's a good thing he stepped aside. Now there's a chance that MAGA can be defeated in November. And there was no chance 5 weeks ago.
Jeff Cohen, we want to thank you for being with us, co-founder of the online action group rootsaction.org, served as senior producer on Phil Donahue, MSNBC primetime show, and wrote about the experience in cable news confidential, my misadventures in the corporate media. Phil died this weekend at the age of 88. This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez for another edition of Democracy Now! Breaking with Convention.
The viewpoints expressed in this program are the opinions of the people expressing them and are not necessarily those of Fresh Air Incorporated, its staff, or its board of directors.
Hi, this is Al McFarlane, host of The Conversation with Al McFarlane. You're listening to 98.3 FM, KFAI, Minneapolis. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Tuesday, live on KFAI. What a wonderful room to be in, a wonderful space to be in. Thanks to Amy Goodman, the powerful analysis she delivers through Democracy Now! And we're pleased to be following up behind her. Thanks, Michelle, for checking in and greeting our guests today. Well, we've got a great program, a lot of good stuff to go over. Before I begin, I want to invite you to be a part of this program by subscribing to The Conversation or joining our membership list. And you do that by going to YouTube /Insight News MN. That's our channel. And there, simply click the subscribe button. It means you get notifications when we go live. And also like and share. We've we're approaching the 1,200 subscriber place right now. We want to break through 1,200 and be on our way to 13, 14, and 1,500 subscribers. And you can help us do that. Well, we want to help you, motivate you to do that. We happen to have several season tickets for the Minnesota Twins baseball. And Twins baseball is as good as it gets right now. And if you want to go to a Twins game, all you got to do is go over to the Insight News channel on YouTube and put a comment in. You can comment on today's discussion, comment on whatever else is on your mind, but put the word baseball in your comment, and then we will put you in line to be possibly selected for a pair of tickets to a Minnesota Twins baseball game, either at the end of this month or during the month of September. And I've got some great seats. I want to make sure you get to use them. If you're a baseball fan, if you love the Twins, if you love the stadium, I love the stadium. Here's a chance to get premium seating and enjoy it. And you get it just by being a supporter, a subscriber to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. So go to Insight News MN, YouTube, Insight News MN. You'll find us there live, and subscribe, like, share, let somebody know that we're here. Tell them about the baseball tickets because we want to give them away, and we'll get going. Well, baseball, great segue into our opening of the show with Coach Leah. Coach, how you doing? Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here. And by the way, the term coach has more significance now than ever before. And so when you call somebody coach, you're talking about good company, you and Coach Walls.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm so happy to be here, happy to be back and hanging out with you back in the saddle on a Tuesday, and with the simulcast on KFAI radio in our dear Twin Cities. But indeed, we will definitely talk about the word coach. Once a coach, always a coach. Just a little later in this segment this afternoon, but I wanted to start the segment today just talking about Olympic gold for Lynx head coach Cheryl Reeves. And what an amazing feat the Olympic, USA Olympic basketball on both the men's side and the women's side were able to pursue as well as the succeed over in Paris. And if you did not get a chance to watch any of the basketball on either the women's or the men's side, you missed a treat, because not only did you see the best of the best of competition, you were able to see the reason why the NBA and the WNBA are the best leagues in the world. I mean, not only do you have the top players that are playing in the NBA and the WNBA playing in our league here in the United States, they are the top players, obviously, when they go back and play for their respective countries as well. And so that was so good to see. And what else was really, really great to see is the level of competition that was that you were able to see. I remember years ago watching, USA basketball play in the Olympics, and it would seem like you had professionals playing against, maybe college or even high schoolers when you were playing against the teams from the other countries. That is no more. Let me tell you, it is great competition and great, great basketball, especially on the women's side. And so, talking about Coach Reed, her her testament to her dedication and her strategic brilliance. She has a deep respect, for who she is and what she does now all over the world. I mean, we've known, the breadth and the value, here in Minnesota, but to see now that on the world stage was just for me, very, very heartwarming. Al, were you able to catch any of the basketball during the Olympics?
I caught most of it, and I was just totally and genuinely impressed. And the beauty of the game, the beauty of the athleticism, the teamwork, and I watched Brittany Griner, for example. Just was amazed at how strong she looked and how well she played, and just the energy of that women's team was phenomenal. The men's team, what can you say? As you described, they were the best, and it was classic, great basketball. And the great feeling I had was watching our people. We showed up in the Olympics, I think, in a major way. And I think that's something that we should all feel good about, both as African people, as Black people, but as Americans as well.
Absolutely. And what was fun for me also is, being bi-coastal between Texas and Minnesota, seeing Simone Biles with gymnastics, and just how she just dominates that sport right now, and just seeing being able to cover the Olympic trials in Minneapolis, and then seeing how that translated to what was then displayed at the Olympics was phenomenal for me. I just was getting just goosebumps just watching that, and how that team came together and again dominated in gymnastics during the Olympics. And so that was a lot of fun. And so I'm really grateful for the opportunity to serve as the sports editor for Insight, and be able to see up close and personal as well as behind the scenes, and that's kind of my favorite anyway, the things that are not necessarily having to do with the competition, but seeing behind the scenes, the preparation, the camaraderie, those things that everybody doesn't necessarily get to see because they're not able to have the lens that we're able to have behind the scenes as the journalists. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh, I can't hear you, Al. I think you're on mute. And normally you're telling me that.
There we go. Yep. I was on another screen. That's why. And I didn't realize that I had muted to change. I was keyboarding. But this is a great place to talk about this connection between sports. And I wanted your comments, your feedback on the presentation at the national convention of Steve Kerr. What were your thoughts about that? And again, let's sort of close the section out today with the meditations on this whole idea of a coach. You have once a coach, always a coach. What do you mean by that? And what are your thoughts on that?
So once a coach, always a coach. So first coach, let's talk about Coach Steve Kerr and how dynamic he was during the Democratic National Convention last night. Oh my God. So he's so well respected. And of course, he's won numerous titles with the Golden State Warriors. And now he's got this Olympic gold medal as well as the USA Olympics head coach. But his remarks were so amazing. He's always been known for his sharp wit and his unflinching honesty. And he brought a very fresh perspective. And, it's one of these things where, where does politics, cross the lines into athletics? Well, all day, every day. If you really think of the history of athletics, a lot of top athletes as well as top coaches use their platform to talk about, some things that are important to them in real life. And politics is real life. You know what I'm saying? So it's not even just about the sport, but it definitely gets your attention when it comes to, your thoughts about what's happening in the political world. So, his words were a reminder that sports can be a powerful platform for change. You know what I'm saying? And his support for the Democratic agenda showcases his commitment to making an impact beyond basketball. And I will tell you, I've been telling a lot of my friends that have this platform to use it right now, especially for voter registration and getting out to vote. It's not good enough just to register. We've got to register and then we got to go vote. And we have to vote also for the local leaders. That's going to be so important that, it's great to vote for who we want for president and vice president, who we want to see in the White House. But their job is going to be that much easier if we have the right people on the local levels helping to do the work there. So that, and especially because honestly, their decisions in the White House are only supported by the politicians we have at the local level. We're most closest to them. And so we've got to vote for everybody on the ticket. You know what I'm saying? And so it was really fun listening to Steve Kerr use his platform, and he says he's going to continue to do so. So we're going to see that a lot this upcoming season for all sports. We really should be seeing that all the way across the board for all sports. Again, my last coach that I got to talk about, Coach Walls. I'm so excited about this. Once a coach, again, always a coach. And what an amazing running mate Steve Walls is going to be for Kamala Harris during this run. And, he encapsulates his enduring commitment to guiding and mentoring and just inspiring those around him. And, when you have a great coach is not going to just kind of tell you what to do and put you in position to be successful, but they're also going to be cheering you along the way. And that is the thing that I hear and that resonates so much with me in these next coming, I think it's like 77 days we have 77 days. And I say we because I am for sure a Democrat that will be voting across the Democratic lines for this election. And I just enjoy the fact that you're going to see a coach in the full essence of coaching and understanding that you're not always in charge, but your voice and your influence and the way that you're guiding can be a major influence into what happens with the leader and what happens, when you parlay that back into on the field. You're not on the field as the coach, but your words and your guidance is going to help every single player on that field be successful to get the win, right? And so that is why I'm just so excited. And I'll be talking more and more about the coaching influence in not just politics, but in everyday life. And but yeah, so once a coach, always a coach. I think I'm gonna put a hashtag T-shirt.
It's a good one.
Because you're definitely one of my coaches too, and I'm so great. Coaches.
There we go. There we go. Coach Leah, thank you so much. Always good to see you. We'll see you next week.
Indeed. Bye-bye,
Take-
everybody.
Bye-bye. I'm Al McFarlane. This is the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm going to move next to my next guest, who's a friend, and I call him a elder and leader in the community, Michael Chaney. Michael Chaney is a force for change. He's a director, founder of a project, Sweetie Pie. He's been like the voice in the wilderness, calling us back to the land, calling us to be better stewards of our environment, and telling us, reminding us that being connected to the land is our natural condition. It's where we belong, where we've come from, that we have been kind of pushed aside at some level. We've allowed ourselves to lose our focus, our attention, and Michael Chaney and others are calling us back. Michael, good afternoon. Welcome to the conversation. What's going on? Give us an update on what's happening with Project Sweetie Pie. And you've got some guests here with you today. I'm going to want you to introduce them, and let's have this broad conversation about things on your agenda. Unmute if you would. Hit your mute switch, Michael. There you go.
Good day. I need an IT person. Can I get an IT person here? Anyway, good day, everyone. Al, thank you as always for being so responsive to the needs and the visions, aspirations of the community, not only here in North Minneapolis, but, you know, the region, the state, and the world. And so, again, as a world leader and seeing yourself as advancing, connecting those of us, you know, lost throughout the diaspora, I really wanted to introduce you to some of the new exciting things that we're doing, how it ties, you know, we have ties to the convention as well. And so I wanted to bring people up to speed, kind of pull back the curtain and let them know the kind of vision that we're embracing, the kind of advancement that we're trying to. And it all starts off with, as I'll start this conversation as I start everyone that I'm involved with.
Mm-hmm.
North Minneapolis is going green. Give us a call and learn what we mean. Where once lie urban blight, now sits luscious garden sites. Gardens without borders, classrooms without walls, architects of our own destinies, access to food, justice for all. And now, like sweet potato vines, our missions and goals all intertwine. I don't know, Al, if people really realize that not only is Minneapolis in the center of the stage on the political realm with the Governor Walz being a leader and now vice presidential candidate. But going beyond that, we are also leading the way environmentally, horticulturally, agriculturally. And so that has been the work of Project Sweetie Pie over the last 15 years. You know, as an activist and organizer in the 80s, I was the founder of the Juneteenth celebration in North Minneapolis. In the 90s, the founder of the Wendell Phillips Credit Union in South Minneapolis. And in 2010, when North High came under attack, I approached the school and asked them if I could get youth in North Minneapolis to start growing food, could we utilize the green room that had been abandoned, you know, over 25 years ago. And so we're really trying to reform education and bring that forward. This year, we've got an exciting workforce model because, you know, we can't sustain any of this food. We're not really growing food. Oh, yeah, that's a great byproduct. But what the task at hand and that we really need to focus in on is we are growing the growers. You can't have a food system if you don't have the workforce. And so today, joining us are John Evans, who is with Hennepin County Green Partner in the environmental. We have Tamia, who is one of our Emerge Project Sweetie Pie interns. We brought her to this pilot project, building out, bringing us to deed and creating workforce strategies. And we have Amalda Paul, who is all the way joining us. The State Department approached us and asked us if we would be willing to take on a Mandela Fellow. And so we have a whole cadre, a cohort of African scholars and future leaders that are here in Minnesota, and they're learning from us. And we've been blessed to be able to get Amalda here, who's interested in food supply and in strong local food systems. So those are the guests that we brought today, and they're behind the curtain, and we want to pull back that curtain and really bring everybody, those from the educated elite to the foot soldiers in the street, and those who have been stranded on the sidelines, bringing them to the front lines in food security and in climate mitigation.
Let's bring them in and welcome all of you to the conversation. John Evans, let's start with you, but welcome also Tania, I think it is, Tania, and welcome Imelda. I'm glad to have you both here, and excited to hear your voices and your vision in this conversation. John, what's your work at the Hennepin County Environmental and Energy Department?
Thanks for having me, Al. Again, my name is John Evans with Hennepin County Environment and Energy, and I am responsible for overseeing our natural resources work, including forestry, as well as our brownfields contaminated site cleanup work. A lot of people might not realize it, but Hennepin County functions also as the Soil and Water Conservation District, and we have a mission to preserve natural resources and soil health in our work. I think more specifically to the work that we've been partnering with Michael and Project Sweetie Pie on has been largely centered on our forestry program. The county operates a 2,000 tree gravel bed nursery in Plymouth, and our mission initially with that was to try and at least mitigate the loss of trees due to emerald ash borer, which is going to have really a catastrophic effect across the county, but particularly in areas like North Minneapolis that already have low canopy. And so we developed this nursery with working with the U of M on guidance on just how to do it, but it's a way of raising trees that allows them to develop really big root systems that give them sort of a kickstart in growing in locations. And it's a very transportable technology, and we've had the pleasure of working with Michael on a couple of projects in North Minneapolis using that.
That's awesome. How familiar would you say ordinary residents of the county are with the environmental mission of our county? I'm so glad to meet you and glad to hear you talk about stewardship and trees in particular. But is there enough discussion? Is there enough awareness? And if there's not, what can we do to make sure that ordinary people in the course of their ordinary days are both conscious and intentional in appreciating, valuing, and supporting the value of effective stewardship with trees and with the environment? What do you think?
Well, I think we certainly are, and part of our mission is to really educate benefits in the value of natural resources, but specifically, I think in this case, is just the benefits of trees. Trees improve air quality, they absorb storm water, and they provide heating and cooling. And in areas of like North Minneapolis that are some of the most afflicted with the urban heat island effect, planting trees is probably one of the most cost-effective ways you can do to benefit to reduce that effect. And it's something that every resident can participate in. So as part of our forestry program, besides planting trees, we're also really focused on educating residents on the benefits of trees, and also to try and hopefully develop with organizations like Project Sweetie Pie the next generation of environmental stewards, and also develop interest among residents of North Minneapolis and the idea of careers in natural resource and forestry.
Awesome. Let me bring Imelda in. Imelda, welcome to the show, to Conversations with Al McFarlane. I've got some notes that I'll use to describe you. Imelda Nguma is a nutrition and gender specialist with over 6 years of experience in nutrition, agriculture, environment, climate, gender, and social inclusion projects. As a trainer and a founder and a CEO of the Homeland Harvest Tanzania, Imelda is well known for her ability to do capacity building, innovation, supervision, and mentoring. And before her current role as the youth and gender specialist, she worked as a nutrition and social inclusion specialist and as a nutrition officer in national and international organizations. She's worked for the Muhimbili National Hospital, Africare Tanzania, Tanzania Livestock Research Institute, USAID Feed the Future Tanzania. I said Tanzania this time. I said Tanzania before. She'll correct me before we're done. And the Rhine Institute in Tanzania and in Ireland. And so there's more to read, but I'll let you talk about yourself. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. How are you?
Thank you so much, and I'm so glad to be here. As you said it earlier, my name is Imelda Paul Nguma, and I'm a nutritionist, but also I've been working with some horticulture projects back home in Tanzania as a nutrition and social inclusion for the couple of years, like 4 to 6 years now. And I'm so happy to be here during this program as a Mandela Washington Fellowship from Tanzania, and maybe I can give a little bit of introduction, like what is Mandela Washington Fellowship, if times allow us.
Please do.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for that. So Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders is a flagship program of the United States state government for young African leaders. We normally call it YALI in a short form. So it has been established since 2014, and up to date, it's like more than 6,500 young African leaders have been recruited or have managed to get this opportunity in sub-Saharan Africa. But also, this fellowship is a prestigious opportunity because it takes the younger generation from 25 years to 35 years, and they have a passion of building our skills in leadership and establish like a great, mentorship kind of program within us. And the fellowship program comprises of 3 components, of which a fellow has to apply based on what exactly do you want. So there's 3 kinds of leadership programs, which are leadership in civic engagement, leadership in public management, or leadership in business. So it depends which track you want to do based on your experience. So I can say it's a 6 weeks program where the fellows will be placed in different institutes. For example, I was at Purdue University for my first 6 weeks, where I did my leadership program at the University of Purdue and the Department of Agriculture. So I was very happy to learn more about agriculture and understand it more, because as you said, I'm a nutritionist. Regardless, I've been working in agriculture project, but I really have a great interest to understand more about agriculture, because we cannot promote people to consume food while we don't know if the food out there is safe or is it nutritious, is there enough supply for the community. So after the 6 weeks of the leadership program, I got an opportunity to participate in another program within the fellowship. It's called the PDE, Professional Development Experience, for 4 weeks, of which I've been in Minnesota under Project Sweetie Pie as an intern, and I will accomplish this at the end of this month. Yeah, thank you. That's the short story about it.
Oh, it's a great story. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us. And so I'm interested in how we as African people, I call myself, Imelda, a New World African in the New World, right? And so I have the affinity in my mind, my heart, my soul with the motherland and with our presence throughout the diaspora. And how do you see us, because we're young as the global population is concerned, African people are very young. How do you see us emerging and establishing effective stewardship over the food and resource needs of our people and of our planet going forward the next 30, 40, 50 years. How does it look from where you are at your young age, both as a challenge and as an opportunity?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. I can say as a youth, during my working experience, I can say, first of all, I'm blessed to to encounter such kind of opportunities at very young age, of which it's an opportunity that maybe every youth out there is looking for. But also the second thing is, like, Africa is blessed to have a very young generation, of which it means we have more people with energy out there who they can bring different kind of innovations and agriculture and food industry. But also, I believe it's only what we need is to capacitate the youth that we have. As a young leader and a nutritionist with interest in agriculture, my work also is to promote this kind of opportunities, to this younger generation. But apart from promoting these opportunities to the younger generation, I am standing as one of the example that I want to make a change within the food value chain. Like, we need to see agriculture back home as one among the opportunities that can really make us develop and can really bring a lot of youth on board so that they can practice agriculture, but also they can bring a change in each country, in their countries. Regardless of the challenges maybe of the market, because this is the greatest challenge that I can say, that market has been a challenge, especially maybe once a certain country maybe is producing a certain kind of crop. So sometimes market can be a challenge. So whenever you see market as a challenge or technology as a challenge, or maybe sometimes we encounter a lot of cost during production of food, they tend to slow down and they don't take part or they don't participate. But thanks to our government and some of the governments that are taking different kind of initiatives to bring more youth on board, to train more youth, and to find some sort of collaboration with other countries and other partnership that normally brings hope and opportunities within the horticulture value chain or the agriculture value chain. So I'm a champion within the agriculture, and I will always be a champion within agriculture, because without food, there's no nutrition. We are only talking about food consumption, but we need to know where the food comes from. So if we need to know where the food comes from so that people can eat a balanced meal, a healthy meal, we really need to motivate more younger generation to participate in agriculture. And I will always champion on that.
I'm Al McFarlane. You're listening to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm talking with Imelda Nguma, and she's here. She is a fellow with the Washington, is it Washington? Mandela.
Washington.
Mandela Washington Policy Fellow. She's from Tanzania, and she's here working with Michael Cheney and Project Sweetie Pie. Michael, come back in, if you would, and introduce Tamia as another young person. Let's bring that voice in as well. And let me acknowledge that my co-host is here, Jonathan Palmer. Hey, Jonathan, good to see you. And we'll just broaden this conversation as we go. Michael, introduce Tamia.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to expand, thank all of my partners, not only those that are here on the phone call today, but to really set the context in which, John talked about our installation at Oak Park Neighborhood Center, where we're doing our gravel bed tree farm and addressing the emerald ash borer epidemic. These trees will be brought to harvest or be deployed in the fall to families who are going to lose their trees, and we're stocking. We're part of the supply chain now. This is all part of Project Sweetie Pie. There's 4 phases. Stage 1 is scattered gardens. Stage 2 is social media. Stage 3 is infrastructure, seeds and extension. And stage 4 is what I call pi squared, green to the second power. And that's workforce strategies and new and emerging green enterprises. And so not only locally, but nationally and internationally. So again, hats off to the Mandela Fellows, because we're very interested in building that bridge, being that pioneer, establishing the spice trade, just like Marco Polo did, that there are economic opportunities in Africa for African Americans. All we have to do is be open to expansion and realize that the whole world is our stage, that we're not just relegated to North Minneapolis. But we can't do that without leaders like Imelda and this next young woman who is part of our workforce, this workforce pilot project between Emerge, Project Sweetie Pie, Hennepin County Green Partners, the City of Minneapolis, the Department of Natural Resources, Tree Trust, and Pillsbury United. That, you know, I always like to say that there's a hole in our bucket. Then fix it, dear Henry, then fix it. So we're fixing this broken food system, and we're doing it with young people in our community. Mia is a phenomenal young leader, just like you met Imelda, Northside resident, and I'd love her to tell her food story because I think that we have birthed another world leader who's ready to take the whole world as her playground.
Welcome to Mia.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. What an introduction. I mean, at 23 years old, I consider myself kind of a pioneer when it comes to leading the youth in the right direction, although I am still a youth myself. This experience kind of has invoked a lot of the memories that I have from my childhood of growing up on a farm in Georgia that had like the biggest peach tree that I'd ever seen anywhere. We didn't even have fruit trees the way that I see them prevalent in Minnesota. I've watched. I actually lived on the north side a few years ago, and I've recently moved back about a year ago, and I've quite literally watched that community change. It's been to say beautified would be an understatement because I've just seen so much more of community outreach. I've seen so much more greenery, so many more gardens, and to have been able to be a part of that, to help to lead the youth in the right direction, and to be a part of the pilot program for Emerging Project Sweetie Pie to help the youth to understand the importance of urban farming and urban agriculture. It's been an honor.
So what do you do? What's your role? What's your work inside this initiative in the community?
So my role was youth lead in the urban workforce training. And it was basically my job to help the youth as I've been speaking on, to help the youth to understand the importance of urban agriculture and what their role is. Basically over the summer, I've been helping them understand how to be world changers, because this is what you are doing. I remember at our ceremony, I had just made sure to make it known that they should be proud of themselves, that they have helped to affect change, that they have they are the driving force for the future. And
Jonathan Palmer, jump in, my friend. And this is a great conversation. I think you know Michael Chaney. Michael is I can call him the jewel of the Nile, and I'll say that in the sense that Michael had shared a vision with me that I can't get out of my head. And he said, Plymouth Avenue is the Nile Valley of North Minneapolis. And I have this awesome appreciation of the Nile Valley as the birthplace of civilization itself, of humanity, and a place that we belong to, that belongs to us, that we connect with. And Michael, with his visionary, poetic voice and style, declares, standing and looking down Plymouth Avenue, a neighborhood, a street that had been laid to waste and left to lie barren for almost 20 years. But through agitation and through education and through hard work and organizing and building infrastructure and organizations, institutions like Project Sweetie Pie began to promote a different vision. And the vision he promotes in a way that's powerful, that's palpable. And so, Mia, when you were saying you were amazed at the change because it's beautiful, you hit the nail on the head, sister. It's exactly the case. Our community, North Minneapolis, is flowering and flourishing and involved in a visible regeneration. And the regeneration is not only the result of planting gardens on the avenue and gardens throughout the community, but also creating an awareness, a network of people who understand and buy into, see themselves as stewards of the greening of North Minneapolis, as Michael would say. So just my comment there, but Jonathan, jump in here because you and I talk about the change afoot in our community all the time.
Well, yes, and I'm a big fan of Michael's, with Project Sweetie Pie for over a decade. I mean, he's been working on environmental justice, food access, and he probably doesn't recognize me without a cape on, but the work that he and Project Sweetie Pie have been doing has been groundbreaking in terms of leading to a new focus on how we look at hunger relief, how we look at empowerment within the community. And so I think one of the things would be great to hear a little bit more on how, Michael, how you're going ahead and teaching the youth and helping them to carry this on. It's one thing to go ahead and chart a course like this, but you've been building this bridge and the way to pass the torch to the next generation so that this is not only innovative, but it's sustainable. And it's something that can lead other young people into finding a career, finding a passion for greening, for food and food justice. So can you talk a little bit about that and how you see that flourishing?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Jonathan. And, we think that food is what we're growing. That's just the icing on the cake. That's just the byproduct of some hard work. Trees, just a byproduct. Because I believe that until we have a greater understanding and appreciation of nature, we'll never really be able to overcome the divisiveness and the animosity that we hold toward each other as human beings. We see this divide, this divisive approach, and we see it in politics, and it's becoming more and more prevalent, showing its ugly head. And so when people ask me if I'm a grower, I say, yeah, I'm a grower, but that's not really what I'm doing. And they say, well, what do you mean by that? I said, well, yes, I grow, but that's just a platform. I see myself as an egg patriot. And then they ask me, they say, well, what's an egg patriot? And I tell them that I can say it any better than, John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. When you hear about stuff about the Sustainable Development Goals and addressing climate mitigation, until we come together as community, as a globe, to really address these issues, this divisiveness, this negative, and I think this political, going back to your core of your program, Al, until we really look at the divisiveness that is driving us apart and driving a nail in our coffin as a democracy, that until we realize that this is our homeland and it's the homeland to each and every one of us, and the Mother Earth is calling us. And so I'm only creating a methodology, a platform for us to come together as community. And the UN calls for its Sustainable Development Goals, where you bring together governmental agencies, nonprofits, NGOs, large and small, private enterprise, communicators, educators. But historically, that has been a top-down device and strategy. And what I'm trying to do is change that paradigm so that it bubbles up through the earth like lava, and that out of the center of the page to the center of the stage, where we can get people engaged. That we've got to come out of these caves, these silos that have kept us insulated and isolated. We've got to change the paradigm where we as African Americans and communities of color and immigrants, where we're simply being used as placeholders in the consumption chain. We have to move our communities from being consumers to producers. And this year, for the first time in 15 years, through this partnership with John, Hennepin County, and with the city of Minneapolis, Hennepin County Green Partners are paying the interns. Our egg educator is being paid by the city of Minneapolis. Emerge is doing the back office, workforce strategy and accounting. And we are holding down, we're putting it in the dirt. We are planting and teaching people how to grow their own food so they can be self-sufficient, self-sustained, and we can keep on growing the next generation of growers. And so that's the strategy. How do we come together as a community? Project Sweetie Pie, the story of a community that came together, worked together for the common good of the youth and families of its community. For it takes a village to raise a child. We're growing good in the neighborhood. Good food, good schools, good youth and families. Education never tasted so good. That if nothing is taught, nothing can be learned. And so through the help of John and all of our stakeholder partners, we're trying to change that trend and move us out of sharecropping, where we can become part of the supply chain. The same young people that we want to see eating this food ought to be growing this food and ought to be receiving remuneration for this food. In other words, bringing to life, like Roosevelt did in the New Deal, we are actually putting meat on the bones for the Green New Deal and moving forward with John to create the Hennepin County Harvesters, moving forward in St. Paul to really create what I call the Ramsey County Garden Heirs. So real solutions for real people who are enduring real problems.
So John Evans, make the case of what the county's responsibility is. How does the county, and I see it happening, but you can talk about it, effectively engage energy such as that being brought by Michael Chaney and the network of people that he's both educating and promoting and supporting? How does the county both leverage that, support it, and grow it?
Well, I mean, I think, and you'll see it if you see a county staff person with one of their name tags on, our mission is serving residents. And that takes a lot of forms. But one of them is really to do whatever we can to reduce disparities in wealth and health and education. We also are really committed, again, to making our workforce really match up with the communities that we serve. And, in particular, this work with Michael is really exciting for me because, right now there's not a lot of persons of color in the natural resources and environmental fields. But through efforts like this nursery project, along with another project we work with Michael, where we had high school students from the north side develop a mini arboretum on county land, and then install what's called a tree trek, where you can go around and learn more about the trees and the benefits of trees. It's just a great additional piece of the puzzle to kind of just get folks thinking about careers in natural resources and also just the things that they can do in their backyard to better their environment and really just benefit from trees and other natural environments.
Let me go to Tamia. Tamia, as a young person, how do you feel we, the elders, have properly or failed to properly engage your generation around the question of the environment, our relationship to the land? You know, it seemed to me that a lot of our kids in the city were tricked into believing that if they couldn't buy it at the corner store, it didn't exist. What do you mean? This is the land of 10,000 lakes, but 5 years ago, 6 years ago, the buzz on the street was that kids are suffering and food insecure because their idea of where food comes from is limited to the corner store and food that really damages their health rather than gives them nutrition. So what is the sense of your generation of what happened and where we are right now and where we got to go?
Okay, so I think that it's a domino effect. You ask how the elders are kind of doing or not doing what they're supposed to be doing to help us to stay engaged with urban agriculture, and I think that when you have slogans like planting the seeds of change, it helps someone like me to understand the impact that my elders have already had on me. The fact that I'm able to step in and be the youth lead, the fact that I'm able to help to influence the youth to make better decisions, it makes me realize, like I said, the domino effect. I was one of those teens that like to eat hot chips too, but it doesn't change the fact that I grew up and realized they're extremely unhealthy. So quite literally, just leading by example. I really think that my elders have done an impeccable job of leading by example, and I'd say that this has been a very transformative summer for me. Just understanding that listening to the people that are above you, it will help you to walk in their footsteps, if you will, and to not feel so lost. And I would hope that I've done my part for the youth to help them to understand that you too are planting the seeds of change. You too are affecting the future, and you can make better decisions, and that it's better for you.
Give me the 2-minute version of who you are, Tamia. Who's your family? You mentioned that you got Georgia roots and then North Side roots. Talk about whose shoulders you're standing on.
Yeah. So I came to Minnesota in 2018, and it was a complete culture shock for me, of course. But I took very about a year after being here, I took very keenly to the North Side, and I was able to find a wonderful mentor, Mr. James Everett. So a little backstory: Mr. James Everett is who introduced me to Michael Chaney and helped to pioneer me into this opportunity. But I will say that his self, Mr. James Everett and Michael Chaney, I've done my research, and they have affected the community more than anyone that could ever have anything to say about them. I've quite literally watched how their efforts have evolved over the years, and it's been beautiful. So I pretty much stand on their shoulders, and I take their I how do you say, I take their example, if you will, and it's just it's a beautiful experience.
Let me take it one step further. Who's your mom? Who's your dad? Who's your grandpeople? What's your lineage? If I
So
ask you who you
so
are, the question becomes, what in creation has poured into this moment to make Mia the Mia that I'm dealing with right now?
It's funny that you asked that specific of a question, because I had just recently had an epiphany about how my roots have shaped me. So my mother is Jamaican, my dad is Cameroonian, and I'm actually first generation American. I have seen the way that God created me to become a pioneer for change in America. And that my roots very heavily influence the way that I'm willing to fight, the way that I am willing to um, the way that I'm willing to take initiative toward things that are actually important for the world. So I had a I had a mom that always wanted to help fight the world, and well, fight the man, if you will. And I have a dad that is very much he's a very good show of what it means to be a hard worker, what it means to fight for what's right. And that's a little bit about me,
That's
about
awesome.
my lineage. Yeah.
John, same question for you. We've got a few minutes, but I think it's always nice to get a sense of where people are coming from. And that's not just the job, not just the pedigree, but the soul, the spirit. So who is John Evans?
Well, I grew up on a sheep farm in Iowa, and so I've always been, connected to agriculture. And although I went on to college and really kind of focused on geology, and but always with the connection to the environment, and originally working to clean up contaminated properties throughout the country, but most recently in Minneapolis. And just through evolution, opportunities, I was able to sort of take on a greater role in overseeing our natural resources work and our forestry. And it's really been a really rewarding opportunity, because it really allows me to really connect with people much more so than some of the other areas I've worked in. And it's allowed me these great opportunities to meet folks like Michael, and just connect with the community, and take what knowledge I have to try and help people, um, and just provide them with what I can. So
Let me close with Imelda being here and for your work, but I wanted to ask you to share your vision of how we organize both locally and globally. I think Michael made reference to it. It's a question of us understanding that we have both the tools, the technology, and the capacity to complicate each other's lives in a positive way, that we're not dependent upon looking at each other through European eyes or European history. We can develop an appreciation of who we are and where we've come from that is reflects an Africana worldview. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you so much. What I believe is, like, for any success, it needs collaboration. Like, we cannot work on our own. Like, I never knew, like, one day I'll get this opportunity. I never knew, like, one day I'll get to be in Project Sweetie Pie. But through networking, collaboration from one country to another, it really made we young African leaders be here today in the United States of America. It made me being here today at Project Sweetie Pie. So what I believe is to create more opportunities for collaboration in everything, because we are all humans and we depend on one another, regardless of the technology we have. We can share the technologies, the knowledge we have, we can share the knowledges, so that we can all build a better place in the world for the young generation to survive, for the young generation to thrive. And at the end of the day, it's like everybody will be happy with where they live, with what they have, with what they eat, and all the atmosphere will be much more friendly. Yeah.
Imelda, thank you. Michael, is there an event coming up that you want to call people's attention to? Something going
Yes,
on?
thanks. Thank you, Al. We're doing
We got 1 minute. 1 minute.
We have an event coming up on Friday. It's called Field of Dreams, where we're bringing the whole community together. And I see it as, you know, last week I went down, it's Field of Dreams. It's at 1701 Oak Park. It's from 10 to 3. We're going to be giving out certificates of appreciation to our young people who completed our workforce training pilot, but we're also extending it to Appetite for Change, to We Win Institute, Youth Farm, and other organizations. We need to come together as a community, celebrate as a community, and grow as a community. And growing a healthy food system and a healthy society that I like to say, let equity and inclusion be the fuel that feeds our nation's future.
That'll be the
Come
mic
out and
drop.
see us on Friday.
We're out of time. Listen, thank you, Michael. Thank you, all of our guests today. We'll see you next time. I'm Al McFarlane.